Hi, it's Anthony from CarPlayLife.com, and today I'll be telling you about my top 5 best CarPlay 2-in-1 adapters. Thanks to new chipsets and software, we are seeing a growing number of brands release new wireless adapters that not only support wireless CarPlay, but also allow Android devices to connect to a wired CarPlay system to display wireless Android Auto. These are commonly called 2-in-1 adapters or dongles. If you have a factory CarPlay system, this is the simplest and cheapest way to run Android Auto in your CarPlay vehicle. If you also use your car with both iOS and Android devices, or you just want to convert your system from wired to wireless CarPlay or Android Auto, these adapters are great solutions to achieve this too. In this video, I will focus on what are the best CarPlay 2-in-1 adapters. So let's find out which 2-in-1 adapters made my top 5. So I first gathered all the 2-in-1 adapters that I've reviewed on this channel. I then updated them to their latest firmware to ensure that I ran the most compatible and bug-less updates on them. Any adapters that failed to update to the latest firmware, or if the update ended up bricking them, they were eliminated. I then ran each dongle on my Pioneer 93 DAB car stereo, which is a wired and wireless CarPlay and Android Auto aftermarket receiver. And this is to test if the adapter is more versatile and compatible than any other adapter that simply would not work with this receiver. If any didn't work, they were eliminated too. Also check to see if they were still available to buy, because there's no point recommending an adapter that you simply can't buy anymore. So if they've been discontinued or they've been out of stock for a long period of time, they were removed too. Next, I checked their boot up, pairing and connection time to Apple CarPlay. All 6 adapters took between 16 and 31 seconds to boot up into their main menu interface. They took between 13 and 40 seconds to pair with my iPhone 13 Pro and launch Apple CarPlay, and between 8 and 24 seconds to pair with my Google Pixel and launch Android Auto. I added both of these times together to get an overall total boot time into CarPlay and compared them to their actual automated time to power up, connect to my iPhone and launch Apple CarPlay. I then repeated this test for Android Auto, first scoring which adapter needed to manually switch between platforms and which could switch without rebooting. I then paired them to my Google Pixel 5 and tested their launch times into Android Auto, as well as their total automated power up, connect to my Google Pixel and launch Android Auto wirelessly. Apart from 2 adapters, they all used a similar full screen method of displaying Android Auto, whilst 2 supported the split screen display method. And one of those 2 was able to choose between both full screen and split screen modes. All Finalists had similar touch input and audio lag during a wireless connection, and 2 noticeable adapters did show that they were less responsive than the others due to their much lower Wi-Fi bandwidth specs. Otherwise, general interactions, swipes and navigating tracks were mostly responsive across all of the 2-in-1 adapters. I also ran CarPlay on each of the adapters for just over an hour, with music streaming from Spotify, and also ran maps navigation in the background, all whilst my device was charging from a 5-meter long distance, to basically see if any of the adapters crashed and also to see how well they handled operating over a long distance. Configuration and multi-user support can also be important, so I rated each dongle if they allowed any form of multi-device menu support and how well they could be configured to increase compatibility by simply tweaking certain settings within its IP config or system menu. Half the adapters shared the same operating system, so therefore they also shared the same basic configuration options. Only one adapter had a vast selection of configuration options available, and one other adapter simply had none at all, which meant you had to rely on software updates from the supplier to improve the adapter's compatibility. Almost all of the adapters featured a USB-A port on them for pass-through power, offline updating, and some adapters supported media playback on them. Only 3 of the 6 adapters supported wired Android Auto pass-through, whilst one adapter supported both wired Android Auto as well as CarPlay wired pass-through. So I factored all this in and scored them based on this extra functionality. Some of these 2-in-1 adapters also have a few additional features that were worth highlighting. Such features include being able to play back video and music media from an inserted USB drive or SD card, cast video from a mobile phone to streaming YouTube and Netflix app content online. These features were found mostly on adapters with a closed Android operating system. I decided to include these adapters in this 2-in-1 roundup because they offer very much similar 2-in-1 functionality, and their additional features is just too limited to compete against the more versatile AI boxes that are out there. And finally, I looked at their price, including their available sales or coupons. Averaging out their cost, I compared each dongle's cost to how they performed in each previous test and give a general idea of how much value they actually offer. At the end of all this, I had my top 5 finalists. Any one of these 5 2-in-1 adapters were worth picking up. However, some adapters offer certain functionality and operate better in certain areas than others. After totaling up my test scores, I can now bring you my top 5 2-in-1 CarPlay adapters. So in 5th place is the MMB Adapter Pro. This was one of my first wireless adapters, which has evolved and improved over the years. It is built on an Android 11 platform. It features a USB-A port for power pass-through and also media playback. And it supports media casting from your iOS or Android device. Although it will not support casting from any copyrighted content apps, it will support apps like YouTube with its audio in sync with the video that's being displayed on your CarPlay display. Both wireless CarPlay and Android Auto were supported, and neither required a reboot of the dongle to switch between them. And there is some lightweight multi-user support through its Bluetooth section too. Its boot and pairing speed was one of the longest in my test, and its low Wi-Fi specs and lack of config menu also lets this particular adapter down against the rest of the finalists. But if you're after a 2-in-1 adapter with video casting, this adapter stands out above the rest. In 4th place is the Ottocast U2-X Pro adapter. This adapter performed average in all my tests, which in the end helped secure its place in my top 5 over its older non-pro brother. It scored average speeds in all of my boot and pairing speed tests, and it offers a USB-A port for the option to use Android Auto wired as well as wireless. It has an improved boot menu over the non-pro model with configuration options that match its IP config menu, and with some additional options to switch between full screen and split screen Android Auto. You don't need to reboot to swap between CarPlay or Android Auto with this adapter, and it does offer multi-device support. Swapping connections between multiple devices and platforms can be a little bit hit and miss with this adapter though, which at times can be frustrating. And there isn't any wired Android Auto support on this adapter either. So when you factor all this in, along with its relatively high price tag, I find it can't really compare against the remaining top 3 finalists when you compare what this adapter offers you for its price. One feature it does have over other finalists was a high resolution CarPlay display, which is similar to the U2 Air. So if your CarPlay system has a high resolution display, this adapter will take full advantage of that and offer up more icons on your CarPlay display. The 3rd place goes to the Herilary C3 2-in-1 adapter. Like the MMB in 5th place, this adapter is also built off a closed Android operating system. Although it's a newly released adapter, its makers have chosen to use Android 8 for its foundations. This decision gives this adapter an advantage over other finalists by providing a fairly seamless YouTube and Netflix app experience alongside its 2-in-1 functionality. It doesn't have a USB-A port for power or wired pass-through, but it makes up for this with an SD card slot, which you can use to play back locally stored videos and music. It was the fastest to connect to wireless Apple CarPlay, but it was also the slowest to pair to Android Auto and also to cold boot into CarPlay. It has the poorest Wi-Fi specs of all the finalists, yet its multiplay app runs both wireless platforms pretty much well enough. However, due to the multiplay app, the microphone's input has some audio distorting volume gain that I just simply couldn't work around. So if your use case can avoid these negatives, this adapter's ability to simply play local video and watch video from 2 of the big streaming giants, this adapter has great value due to the video features it offers. In 2nd place, we have the ApplePie Lite adapter from Exploter. This adapter certainly wins the most unique looking adapter out of all of our finalists, but its racing looks also carry through to its boot speed and pairing performance, making it the fastest adapter in my test to boot into its rather basic main menu screen, and the fastest to boot into wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. It supports wired Android Auto also via its USB-A port, and its fast Wi-Fi speeds are shared with the Ottocast U2-X Pro. Unlike the Ottocast though, its boot menu is very basic, and it requires a reboot to switch between both platforms. There's no multi-user support either, and it has a very basic amount of configuration options in its IP config menu. So if you're only connecting to just one of the supported platforms and you're after a no frills 2-in-1 adapter that just works, thanks to being one of the lowest price, this adapter is for the budget conscious that's also looking for speed. And finally, the number one 2-in-1 CarPlay adapter is the CarlinKit 4.0 CP2A adapter. This adapter simply takes the best elements from both of the two adapters in my top 5 wireless CarPlay adapters roundup and simply adds Android Auto support. As a result, this adapter is fast to boot and pair adapter for wireless CarPlay, and it comes in just 4 seconds slower than the fastest booting adapter for Android Auto. It is the only Finalist to support wired CarPlay pass-through through its USB-A port, as well as wired Android Auto, should you wish to connect and charge your device, as well as operate either platform with minimal lag. Its upgraded AutoKit menu supports multi-device support, and with the same Auto Connect toggle option from the boot menu, you can simply let the boot menu sit there without auto-connecting to the wrong device. The CarlinKit 4.0 doesn't require rebooting between platforms, and I found that this adapter was the most robust and reliable of all of the Finalists at switching between CarPlay and Android Auto devices. It sadly carries mid-level Wi-Fi specs though, but that didn't seem to affect its wireless performance during its use. If system compatibility is a concern, apart from being able to be bought from Amazon for easy returns, should it not work, this 2-in-1 adapter offers the same deep configuration option menu as the 3.0 wireless dongle, which offers so many ways to tailor the performance of the connection and streaming performance from the dongle itself, which in turn can help work around any compatibility issues that you might find with your car system. And finally, there is the price. As the most cheapest of all the Finalists, when you factor in all that it offers, if you're just after a simple 2-in-1 adapter for your CarPlay system, this adapter is really hard to beat. So there we have it. These are my top 5 tested 2-in-1 CarPlay adapters. I hope you found this roundup helpful, and I'll leave links to buy and watch my reviews of each of these dongles in the description down below. Give us a thumbs up if you like this content, and if you're just looking for a wireless CarPlay adapter, you can check out my top 5 wireless dongles here, and I'll see you there. If you're interested in my top 5 Android AI boxes, please consider subscribing, as I hope to release this video before the end of the year or early in the new year. As always, comments are always welcome if you have any questions about any of the 2-in-1 adapters that I've covered in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.